guys? Welcome back to another Oktoberfest beer review for 2021. This is Oktoberfest number 7. And this is the first really regional craft beer that I'll be trying out. I haven't done any other regional kind of thing. Everything else has been, I believe, beers that you can get pretty much anywhere. This is the first that I don't believe you can. And this is out of Old Nation. It's a brewery from Williamston, Michigan. And this is their Oktoberfest beer. Now, Old Nation, at least around here, has this almost cult following for one of their IPAs called, was it M43, I think? It's named after the highway that runs past, or the state highway. And I'll try to do a review of that before, I take off. But there's if you ask most people, beer drinkers around here, they will probably tell you that that is the best IPA in maybe the entire state. And when you got breweries like Bell's and Founders, Bell's, you saying it's better than Two Hearted? That's what a lot of beer drinkers around here will tell you that. So I'll crack that open because you can't really, I don't know if they distribute outside of the state. But this is their Oktoberfest. It is 5% ABV and 18 IBU. Seems pretty standard. And yeah, let's crack this open. There's like a weird light coming down right down the front. Get it out of that weird light. Okay, that's gonna help. No, it works. Okay, that's good enough. So, okay, here's the beer poured, my Monkey Buddha, and here's the can. Maybe, there we go. We got it. Alright, let's get in the review, get into the smell. Alright, this is one of those Oktoberfest beers that the aroma is very minimal. I'm already picking up pretty much nothing. Yeah, this is one of those beers where, some of these Oktoberfest beers, I don't know why, but there is no aroma to it. This is there's a very subtle, it's a kind of a lager, but that's pretty much it. There's nothing else going on. It's just one of those things for some of these beers. So I'm gonna give it a half, just because I can't smell it. So, what are you gonna do? But that's okay. Some of the better beers I've had in previous years where you couldn't really pick up the aroma. So anyways, let's get into the taste. Okay. I like this the malty profile on this one. It is much more subdued. There's almost a creamy aspect to it. It doesn't attack every part of my mouth. It has kind of a roasted nuttiness to it. It doesn't have any really of that burnt taste to it. It's much more subdued. There is an American lager taste in there somewhere. There's the grain profile in it. There is something in it that just screams American lager, but it's not overdone. It's almost like that was the very basis of the nucleus of the beer, and they kind of built around it. It's almost they did that to keep it a little more mellow. Okay, I lied. There is a bit of that kind of smoky wood taste to it, but minimal. It's there, but that kind of roasted, roasted peanut kind of taste, that's much more prominent with this thing. And there's a bit of a sweetness, a dab, I'd say, of a caramel molasses thing going on. more on the caramel side than molasses, but again, that's very, very subdued. Everything in this tastes very subdued. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's almost... I think that could be enjoyable if you're going for some of the other Oktoberfest beers, which really has that prominent, like really extreme burnt taste to it. This is almost the other side of the spectrum, where that burnt taste is almost completely gone. There's a hint there. The light's following me. There's a hint there, but not a lot. And so in some ways, this is almost refreshing to have following some of the other Oktoberfest beers. So it's a nice... have one then the other kind of thing. Like I could see mixing and matching some of these Oktoberfest beers, and this would be a nice one to go for after the more intense, burnt, smoky maltiness of some of the other beers. So I'm going to recommend it on taste. I think it's a nice change of pace. Next category is value for price. This one was a little more expensive, I believe. Not crazy. I believe it was about $3 for this one. No, I lied. Because I remember they had to do a special price lookup, and they just kind of made up a price. That's right. They charged me $4 for this. So I don't know if that's the price, because I think the guys at the cash register were just pulling stuff out of their butt. I have a feeling this is probably not $4. I think it was just so new they hadn't put it into the computer yet, and they were just like, duh. And I think they were going off of what the other Old Nation beers go, and almost all the other Old Nation beers are IPAs, which are generally a little more expensive. So I think I got charged like an IPA price for an Oktoberfest beer. So I'm not gonna neg them on on the value for price. I can't really recommend it because I don't know what it is. So I'm just gonna give it a half because I'm pretty sure it's not $4, but you know. It's one of those things. Couldn't really argue about it because it's just like, I don't know. There's no stickers on anything. So I'll give it a half. Next category is distinction. How distinct is it? And it is, at least compared to the previous couple Oktoberfest beers that I've had, this is much more. It's smoother. It's much more subdued. It's probably a little closer to a Sam Adams, with how it's the maltiness isn't quite as like burnt intense. That burnt taste isn't as intensified, and so it's a little more like that. But even so, I think this is almost a little more subdued than the Sam Adams one. Not saying that there's not like a nice flavor profile. I do think there is. And this doesn't taste like a throwaway. Although, as it's starting to warm up, that American lager taste is kind of creeping in a little more than I would like. I don't really want that American lager grainy taste in my Oktoberfest beers. It kind of takes me out of the German style beer, and then I shouldn't be thinking of like Budweiser or you know, a Coors or something. That should not be in my mind. At least in my opinion. I don't want to be thinking of a Budweiser where I'm having Oktoberfest beer. And that's starting to seep in as it's warming up. Or as I'm drinking more of it. One of the two. But for distinction, you know, it has been much more, not much more, but more distinct than some of the other Oktoberfest beers, which are very kind of, you know, kind of the same group of the flavor profiles. And so this is a little different. And I don't know if it's going to hold up against the next like 30 Oktoberfest beers I have, but for now, I think it's a favorable difference from the other beers, so I will recommend it on distinction. Next category is drinkability. Yeah, this is a very, very drinkable beer, very nice. This is one that you could still drink in the summertime. It almost has that kind of like spring beer taste to it, you know, where you're kind of breaking free out of the heavier winter beers, but you're not quite into the summer beers, and so there's like that transitional beer where it's like, it's not quite autumn beers, but it's like a weird, like it's almost hard to just like place it. But this has almost like that springtime beer. Kind of like a bit of that thawed snow, a little, you know, pininess. It's smooth. It's reminding you that summer's around the corner, but it's still gonna snow a couple of days, and it's got something like that going on. But it's very easy to drink, so I'm gonna recommend it on drinkability. I think it's easy to drink. Last category is would I buy it again, and I mean it's not my favorite Oktoberfest beer. It's got a nice compromise where if I had a whole bunch of the more smoky, burnt beers, this would be a nice on the other side of the spectrum if I wanted to just keep drinking Oktoberfest beers. It won't be the first one I grab, but I wouldn't be anti-buying it again. So I wouldn't mind trying it on tap. I think it'd be interesting to try on tap. But so I'm gonna give it a half. I think I could be convinced to buy it again, but it won't be the top of my list. I'd like to get to their brewery before I peace out of here, so maybe they'll have it on tap when I go visit. But so yeah, give it a half, and that's the review for Old Nation Oktoberfest German. Oh, this isn't a Märzen. This is a German-style Fest lager. Should have read the description. So that makes a little more sense why it's not as like toasted and burnt of that maltiness, because it's that Fest version of Oktoberfest beer, which I believe if I was reading correctly, that became more of a thing in like the 50s and 60s versus the original Märzen beer. But so that you're kind of comparing two different slight variations of a beer style. But, it is what it is. I should have read that part first, but it's the first Fest beer. I believe there'll be more to come out. But I think Fest beer is usually a little smoother. So, all that makes sense now. It makes sense when you actually read the instructions. But, so have you had anything from Old Nation before? What do you think of Old Nation as a brewery if you have had it? Have you had the M43? That's like their calling card. Again, I'll try to do a beer review of that before I go. So if you see that sprinkled into these Oktoberfest beers, that's why. And kind of buffer stuff out in case I run out of Oktoberfest beers as I wait for more to come in. But yeah, that's the review. Like, subscribe, do all the good stuff. And so for now, for myself, an Old Nation Oktoberfest Fest Lager, take it easy.